Right, well now TalkTV can exclusively reveal this morning that the French Coastguard did nothing to help when an overloaded dinghy of asylum seekers began to sink just off the coast of Sangatte, inside French waters.
This is exclusive, my friends. 27 of the 30 people on board drowned in what has been called the worst disaster in the Channel in 30 years. A long-awaited official report by the UK's Marine Accident Investigation Board is due to be published on November the 9th. But early this morning, Director for the Centre of Migration and Economic Prosperity, Stephen Wolfe, said the government needs to look again at its agreement with the French on migrant controls. Have a watch, have a listen.
We should all be raising with the French an opposition to their approach to the way that they deal with the boats in the Channel. And more than that, all of us are concerned, aren't we, Jeremy, about the way that these people are being treated by people smugglers. But we do so because we know that deaths can occur. And why is it that the British have to travel all the way across the Channel into French waters when they know fully well that these people are drowning in their waters? And that is the big scandal. People should be fired and political heads should fall as well.
Agree more. This is absolutely shocking. Joining us in the studio is the political commentator Benedict Spence. Also with us, immigration law, good mate of mine, Ivon Sampson. Ivon, I'm going to start with you. And I'm really interested in your response because there is widespread condemnation of this. Legally speaking, right, surely French authorities have something to answer for here, right?
Yes, in a word. Look, the Refugee Convention doesn't impose an obligation for member states to rescue anyone at sea. However, it's international customary law from a moral point of view that states do that. It's also enshrined in various international treaties, including the United Nations Convention on Laws of the Sea. There's an International Convention on Search and Rescue at Sea, and also international convention on safety of lives at sea. And all of those conventions, all those treaties impose an obligation on member states, which France and the UK are members of, to rescue those in distress without putting themselves in danger.
It's interesting. It's interesting, Ivon. Nick said something an hour ago, which I allude to again. She said, when you hear the facts of this, there can be no argument. This is not a day to debate, you know, who's a refugee and who's an economic migrant. We give £500 million to the French. £500 million. We get told the whole time, good old Britain does its best. Good old Britain's soft, isn't it? Because yet again, let me tell people this, at 1:50 in the morning, the captain on this immigrant barge phoned the French authorities who said it's not our problem, phoned the British. It was inside French waters. By the time the British, I believe, Coastguard got to them, 27 of the 30 were dead. These people, and I'm not trying to go over the top, the French have blood on their hands, Ivon Sampson, 1,000,000%, don't they?
I think the proper investigation needs to be made. And whoever made those operational decisions may face sanctions, both in terms of their employment, but also there could be possible criminal sanctions. Because the sad thing is that, look, people lost their lives because somebody decided that they weren't going to rescue someone in their own backyard. Yeah. We did the right thing. The British, the Coast Guard of the UK did go out into the French waters and tried to rescue those, but unfortunately it was too late. But the money's given to France actually more than that. It's close on to 600 million. Yes. And it makes me wonder what they're doing with all those funds.
Hear, hear.
Just to bring Benedict in the studio, what's your response to that exclusive report? As Ivon said, close to 600 million being paid to the French, 27 people dead because they refused to go to attend that call out.
I'm actually slightly surprised that it's taken this long for something like this to happen. Yeah. I think it's a sign, actually, that broadly we are much better at this side of Europe than they are in the Mediterranean. I'm sure Ivon will be able to tell you more about this, but the attitude of other countries' coastguards, in particular Greece, and, you know, some understanding Greece takes the brunt of a lot of people coming from the Middle East, so you're always more likely to have incidents of this sort of thing. But, you know, Coast Guard vessels not coming out in time, Coast Guard vessels being very sort of brusque with people saying, oh, well, you're not actually in trouble, you know, give us a call back in a couple of hours. And, of course, towing people straight back to Turkish waters, turning off the motors, disabling them, pushing them and go, well, you're Turkey's problem now. Actually, this sort of thing happens, quite a lot across the Mediterranean, and a lot of that, I think, is to do broadly with accountability. You know, ultimately, if you know from the higher-ups, from your local politicians, that you're not going to get that much pushback, and the local politicians know from national government that they're not going to get much pushback, then that creates, I think, a culture where people feel that they can sort of behave with that kind of impunity, which is why I'm interested as to what it is that led French authorities in this case to think, well, we can get away with this. We can get away with this. The British will deal with it.
This is where I would go further. You were with me on JK Live. I think you were as well when we sent Victoria and our reporter out to Dover. It was a few months ago, and there was a boat of migrants, and the French Coastguard. We've got the clip, and they said, well, don't bother with us. Call them. Have a watch, because this is what we're talking about. Have a watch and a listen.
You've got to stop them before they leave. Once they've left, then it's too late. They have to be stopped before they leave. You know, once they're on the sea, then all you can do is escort them, which is what the French are doing, you know. So you just don't know who might be on board. They might all be masquerading as immigrants, but there might be a terrorist amongst them, see. So if they pick them all up, then they can scrutinise them all then, can't they?
I find it astonishing, and Nick and I actually are as one on this. You say, we always do the right thing, the British. Ivan said it. Nicola said, it makes her proud to be British. I think we're soft, and I think we're taken advantage of. And when you are paying, and I'm going to keep saying it, 600 million quid, when people in this country are going through horrible times, it's a joke.
I mean, soft, we play by the rules. That is an ingrained part of British culture.
But it's taken advantage of, Benedict.
It is, because we actually don't do enough to push back when other people don't play by the rules.
That's where we're soft.
And I think that ultimately a lot of this also sort of leads into, not to bring everything back to Brexit, but one of the great sort of angry issues that we had was the fact that we always stuck by the rules. But you go to Italy, you go to France, you go to Spain, and you'd always find examples of people just not obeying the laws, just sort of bending the rules. I remember in Italy, you know, you could find all kinds of things that had been paid for with EU money that were quite clearly a scam, done so by the local mafia, and the Italian authorities sort of admit this. You'll find it in almost sort of every walk of life, in lots of places. People bend the rules, and when it comes to migration and refugees in particular, if people feel that they can get away with just going, right, we'll just push them on somewhere else, they will do it.
Can I just say, and Ivan, thank you very much indeed. I think there will be calls not only for a criminal prosecution, I think there will be calls for the British government to stop paying 600 million quid and not getting anything back from it.
Absolutely, but then we find ourselves back at square one, where we're not going to get any more assistance. It's more than likely, obviously, that the criminal charges will take place in France, where we have no power. Has us leaving the EU, and this isn't anything to do with whether I voted Leave or Remain, but has us leaving the EU meant that we have fewer powers when it comes to punishing the French for this?
No, there was a diplomatic incident a few years ago where Italy and France fell out because the Italians found that the French were driving people back across the border into Italy. Actually, this is how local police and authorities behave. As I said, if they feel they can get away with it. Ultimately, the issue that we have, it always goes back to this, it's processing. We don't get people through our system fast enough. We don't deport. We deport about 10% of the number of people that we did under the Blair government, to give you some idea of how bad the processing. So it doesn't matter if you want to let everybody in or send everybody home. We're no good at either of those things, and people will keep on coming as long as they know the system doesn't work properly.
Well, we're going to keep talking about this story because it absolutely stinks. 27 people left to drown in French waters. Ivon Sampson, for now, thank you very much indeed.